because you're incoherent otherwise.
What's the incoherency?
Incoherency is that you don't have a highest authority for which to derive.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So incoherency and how so? Wait, do you think incoherency is when I disagree with you?
Well, that is an aspect of being incoherent is disagreeing with Mark, yes, but that's not the main issue here.
You're talking about logical
Mark,
incoherency,
the argument that you're being asked for is why is it necessary? Why is God necessary? Necessary under what? Why would it be necessary?
Necessary because causation exists.
Because causation exists.
Well,
causation has to exist for the laws of logic.
Mark, have you even read Hume? Come on.
You read any causation.
Oh, no, hold on.
I actually realized how stupid that was. So why don't you go rerun the argument?
All right. Now, real quick. No, I'm slowing out. Doge, do you actually know anything about Hume's argument? It's a terrible argument. A terrible argument.
It just has to do with the problems of induction, and we can't deduct.
No, it's not going to do with that. Hume.
Wait, that's one end. That's two horns. That's like it has. You can always do it having two horns.
Mark has decided to pivot to the weaker opponent here, just so we're aware. Okay, Mark has decided to pivot to the weaker opponent.
No, something made me mad. I just wrote a paper about this, about Hume's argument for causation. So,
you can debate that.
All right, Doge. Okay, Doge. Do you know what Hume's argument for causation is? Go ahead and give it to me.
Yeah, basically, right. So we can't derive because logically the statement this cup will move when I press it, and this cup will not move when I press it, right? Those things are both coherent statements. Like the statements don't seem to entail any contradiction, right? And now, if we want to say it works that way because it's always worked that way, we can't assume the uniformity of nature because it might just be in that case there that if we push it, it just doesn't move. So that's like the classical two horn that you're usually shown when people talk about it.
Okay, so the issue is that Hume was under the incorrect assumption, that philosophy up to his day believed that causation was eventual, in the sense that causation was an event that happened, a temporal event. This is not how causation was understood. This is why Hume's argument is terrible, because he relies on an incorrect understanding of what he's trying to critique. This has been pointed out in so many writings on Hume.
I mean, I take causation to be a temporal notion.
Swinburne probably has a mistake on this. So basically, what Hume thought that causation was causation was like an event that occurs, right? Let's say that there's the two billiard balls, and then the billiard balls connect, and then this connection, let's say C1 is an event that occurs, a temporal event, right? That's what Hume thought that people thought causation was. That's incorrect. Causation has always been about referring to the implicit activity of a substance, right? So let's say
that's still going to be temporal.
It's not a temporal event itself.
Well, it's going to be the case that there's a latter and prior state of affairs in which we can infer.
Yes, but Hume did not realize that causation was due to the activity of a substance. He believed it was a temporal connective event that was extrinsic to the substances involved, right? That's the point.
Well, that's going to be true.
Critique causation. He doesn't critique causation. He critiques his made-up idea of causation.
If the idea is that it's not temporal, which would mean that it's instantaneous between changes of states of affairs, we're not going to infer any mechanism in which we can draw causation.
No, so all right, so let me give you an example, right? Let's say that we're looking at iron being heated up, right? And so we would say that, okay, as iron is heated up, it expands. It would seem that the causation of iron being heated up is an expansion.
Who's debating you? Wait.
Me and
shut up, Moxie.
Yeah, Moxie was just random stuff slowing down. Okay, so it would seem that if we look at iron is heating up, it would seem that the heat is causing iron to heat up, and stop talking, and like a cosmic sense, you'd say you stop.
You did it, debunk. It's deserved.
Moxie, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna restate. So Hume would say, well, what we're seeing is two events. We're seeing iron being heated, and then we're seeing iron expanding. You would go, well, there's no third term connecting the two. That's true. Causation doesn't work this way. It's never worked this way. No one's believed it works this way. Causation works because in the implicit substance of iron, there is an activity in that substance, a potential, which when iron is heated,
I don't think you're.
That is in the potential of the substance.
I don't think you're appreciating what he tries to actually argue. Right? The idea is
the point is that he doesn't know what he's trying to argue because he reads Aristotle.
It's going to be the case that if there isn't a third component that is constitutive of causation, then we can't draw a mechanism between counterfactual state of affairs. So it's going to be the case that there's no causal inference when it could be the case that this can be different state of affairs or different causes and events can be done arbitrarily.
Whoa!
Wow. So the point, yeah, I mean, you're still relying off the belief. You're still relying off the belief that causation is eventual, instead of recognizing that that's not the argument. Causation occurs due to the substance of the thing.
Well, it's going to be eventual, right? It's not going to be the case that causation is non-temporal.
Yeah,
I agree with that, but it's not the event that is the cause. That's the point. there is a temporality in the unfolding of the substance's activity. You can say, like,
Yeah, it's the
when I'm
change in a
heated,
it's a change in a state of affairs or some set of interaction that gives
no,
rise
it's
to.
not. It's not. No, it's not. This is like you're literally doing what I just said. It's not a change in the state of affairs. It's a unfolding of a substance's potential activity. It's not a change in the state of affairs. It's not a connecting event. It's not a like C1 connecting event.
Oh, you're talking
between
about
two
like Aristotle's potentiality and actuality thing.
Yeah, have you read Aristotle?
A little bit, no, not much.
Well, I would I would read Aristotle before you try philosophy, man. It seems to be a good idea.
Oh my god.
Well, it seems like modern continental philosophy doesn't agree. I mean, modern analytic philosophy doesn't really agree with you so much. It seems like you can get more
Modern
out of
analytic
just a
philosophy
guide.
does. I mean, like Aristotelian metaphysics are still very prominent when you look at like anywhere that's not like brain dead naturalism, right? If you look at like even like neo-Aristotelian secular naturalism still holds to this metaphysics. It just doesn't have it just doesn't have a highest
So,
authority
Mark,
that
Mark,
teleologically is oriented to. Yeah. What's up?
so then, Mark, I feel like this would lead to the problem basically that like opium puts people to sleep because of its dormitory powers, which is like the classic joke that they had against Aristotelian metaphysics. It seems like I'm still just saying like iron expands because of the potential to expand in the heat. It's still that I don't know. I don't know how to like phrase out the objection.
Was that a joke? I don't know what the joke is.
There's a joke about how the reason opium puts people to sleep is its dormitory power. It was like a joke that was made at the expense of like Aristotelian like medicine. But it just seems like if you're saying that what happened is that something potential is just happening, right? That still
Yeah.
seems like the point where potential is not happening and the point where potential is happening, right?
That's correct.
So then there is two states of affair. One where the potential is actual and one where the potential isn't actual.
That's correct. But Hume thought that there was like a connective event, and that connective event
Well, yeah,
is the moment of causation.
That's the idea.
Recognizing
There's going to be a
causation.
dormitive virtue if you're not going to account for some constitutive mechanism, which is going to be a
What do you
third
mean?
component. Yeah, are you aware of like, well, dormitive virtues are like a huge thing against the entirety of like the God hypothesis, and it's one of the reasons why I failed.
We're not talking about God. We're talking about causation right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
You
bringing that up
example.
because it is kind of
Okay.
relative, so or relevant rather. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's going to be the idea like analogously, right? If God is, let's say, we're juxtaposing naturalism and theism, and one says abiogenesis is highly improbable using some set of statistics. The idea is that God has this intentionality where, all things considered, he would have the idea in deliberating or actuating X state of affairs, which is the coming of the universe. The idea is going to be like that's a dormitive virtue because nothing accounts for why God has this intentionality. So it's not really going to be explaining anything because it's a
Because he's
stipulated.
good. It's because he's good and he wants to spread his goodness, right?
Yeah.
And so the existence of things is good. It's on that basis.
What accounts for why he's good as opposed to not good, right? It's just random, his property set in essence, right? Nothing is going to facilitate or furnish why he has X given character set. So it's just going to be the case God's arbitrary in terms of nature.
Because he's good. I don't like he's good. He's beauty. He's
Well,
truth.
I mean,
He's love. I don't.
what do you even take good to mean?
Well, good means that something exists. God and God is the most
Oh.
existence.
You just take good to mean
Wait,
something
so
exists?
existing good?
What's
That
up?
seems
So-
crazy.
I mean,
What's
God is something exists.
So by virtue of Hitler existing, he was good.
Well, as a being, yes. His actions, no, because evil
Wait,
doesn't
didn't his
exist.
actions exist?
Evil, no. Evil's a privation. Evil
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
can I, Mark?
What does that mean?
what horn of-
God, then Hitler's actions didn't exist?
Evil's a privation.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. You're saying that Hitler's actions don't exist, yes or no?
But they have free will. They have free will.
But Mark,
No,
what horn of the Euthyphros dilemma do you take for, or do you believe God grounds morality? Right? Because when you say good,
Yes.
you mean moral good, right? Okay. So what horn of the Euthyphros dilemma do you like commit to?
well,
You said
I-
you see Kylo.
I reject the entire thing because God is the good itself. So there is no question about where where.
So that's
where
gonna
the good
be-
comes from. Because
That's going to be one of the horns, right? One of the horns says that God himself is the good, and the other says that good is derivative for which God, legislates
Yeah.
that.
Well, he is.
yeah.
The good. So,
Okay,
so
so-
anything he does is good.
So that's not going to be outside the horns of the Euthyphros dilemma, right? That's still going to be.
The way I
That's
usually
raising
hear it
babies.
is that it is because it's some.
Yes.
Usually
All
hears that.
it says is that is God good because or are things good because God says them, or does God say them because they're good?
Oh well, he's the good itself.
So it's gonna be-
So-
It's going to be the second horn, right?
okay, maybe I don't know.
Okay, so it's going to be the case
So
God is good.
Yeah,
This
he's the
guy
good
would have made
itself.
babies.
So what do you
Does
take?
God
God
To,
would have made babies.
Well, that'd be bad. So no, he's the good itself. He wouldn't want to do that.
Those you don't need like more people. making
Two
the same
Reddit
arguments.
atheists
Kind
just
of
like
Yeah,
like-
literally
take
two
that
like
away.
Reddit. Like, oh, is you know
Okay,
grave?
Mark, I've got to cycle out, so we have to get to the pre-stop argument
Not
later.
Reddit
Okay,
atheist. It's just that Doge
think-
is like Doge isn't even an atheist. Doge is a theist. I'm just saying that Doge does not need to also jump in
wait.
to fucking
Doge is a
dogpile.
theist?
Doge,
Yeah,
Doge,
yeah,
Doge,
did
Doge, do you
But
pray?
look, Doge, hold
Doge, do you
on,
pray?
hold on. No, don't fucking tag Doge back.
I
to the
have less than
conversation.
like
I'm
2
really trying to have
minutes
the
left.
conversation.
Jesus
I'm trying-
fuck.
Oh my goodness. Go look. No, you go ahead first.
I was saying, Mark, you should debate this with either somebody else in this VC who's smart or with me later. I think
I don't care about debating God. Oh, and Synth. Oh, and Synth.
I
Oh,
wouldn't care
Synth.
about debating pre-stop arguments either if I held the position. Anyways, goodbye. Goodbye.
Peace, Noah.
Head back out. I'm gonna come back in like 30 minutes, okay?
All right.
Synth, by the way,
Bye-bye,
by the
Noah.
way, I have your response about the holy fire.
You have a response for it? Send me the sources.
No, it
Okay.
wasn't a source. I was prying on it, and then I found the argument.
You found the argument. Is it going to be that the holy fire is real?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why.
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear why the cold fire is super real and like it's actually not just a really shit magic trick.
Yeah. So,
And
I
hope
think that
I could
you're
get a
actually-
response
yeah,
after
so-
this, right?
All right. So I think your example of Rome, of like how the Pope like went to the fire and like it didn't work was actually exactly the argument that I would make after I prayed for a second. I was like, oh wait, this is a great argument.
Oh no.
Yeah, so the reason why is because the Pope doesn't have authority, right? The Pope, the Catholic Church isn't the true church, right? So because Orthodoxy wasn't controlled, I mean, because Jerusalem wasn't controlled by Orthodoxy, like the body of Jesus
Before you
didn't
continue,
admit
this
the
argument's
fire.
going to terminate, and this argument
Body Jesus didn't admit the fire because God was like, well, no, this isn't the true church. I'm not going to give them a miracle, right? Which is why the Pope was selling out, and he's like, this is a fraud. When no, he was coping because God was like, you don't actually have authority over this world. And that's why Orthodoxy is the true church, because only Orthodoxy,
Okay, sorry, this
when it
argument
controls
concludes
Jerusalem.
concluding with orthodoxy is the true church. I'm just looking for an argument that concludes with the holy fire is real. Can you give me one of those?
I just told you. Is that
The argument
the
you just
reason
gave me is
why?
the Orthodox Church is the real church. I'm trying to figure out why the holy fire is real.
Oh, no, well, that was the conclusion. But the argument was
so
that
premise
okay,
one,
let me explain
the
it again.
Orthodox Church is the true church. Conclusion, the holy fire is real. All right, I feel like
No.
I'm missing a couple.
let me explain it again. You gave me the example of the Pope who went and he hung around for a bit and it didn't like. So he goes, "This is a fraud. This is crazy." Yep, okay.
Because he didn't know how to do the magic trick.
Yeah, right. My point is that this shows that not only is the holy fire real, but Orthodoxy is the true church.
Why does the Pope
Wait,
not knowing how to do the
wait.
magic trick show it's actually shut up, Doge?
No.
Why does the
so-
Pope not know? Shut up. Why does the Pope not knowing how to do a magic trick show that it's not a magic trick?
Yeah, right. So it's not a magic trick is the first point. The reason why
Yep.
is so the Pope didn't know how to do it because it's not a magic trick. It happens
Why is
because
it not
of
a magic
Jesus'
trick?
body.
We're looking for the argument that it's not a magic trick, not the assertion it's not a magic trick.
Well, I'm not going to give you an argument for that.
Okay,
I'm gonna give you an argument.
You prayed on it, you deliberated, you thought of the argument you were going to make, and that's what you came up with. It's not having one.
I just told you the
Doesn't
argument.
give a
is
good
that
dialogue
Orthodoxy
with
is
No,
not the true
Mark,
church.
you might have Down syndrome. So you also, I'm going to serve you locally, Doge, because you do not know how to stop talking. So the issue here, Mark, is that you're making the argument that the Orthodox is the true church.
Hmm?
You're making the argument that the Pope it's not a magic trick. The Pope didn't know how to do it because he didn't have dominion over the earth, or he didn't have some kind of like true authority.
He
No,
had
I don't care
authority,
about
which
any
is
of that.
why
What I'm looking for is the argument that it's not a
God
magic
didn't
trick.
show him. God didn't show him the miracle of the holy fire because he
Yeah,
was like,
I know
guy
this is your
doesn't have
belief.
authority. Okay.
I'm asking you for the argument that it's not a magic trick. Can you give
I was
me one of
giving
those?
I was giving you a counterfactual as to your example of the Pope. That's my
Yeah, I'm
point.
telling you that I need an argument. It's not a magic trick. Can you give me one of those?
No,
Okay, then it's a magic trick.
no.
Look, so this is
Back.
divine inspiration. Is this the argument you came up with? This is the argument from God himself.
I prayed for maybe 2 minutes about this.
Well, yeah, maybe you should pray harder.
All right, Mark.
Yeah, I know.
Either you should pray harder or God sucks at debate, because that's a really shit argument. We're looking for an argument the holy fire is real. And the argument you just gave me is I think the holy fire is real.
No, that isn't the argument. What?
No, you don't understand this and a bunch of other random shit too. It's totally unrelated. No.
No, that's not the argument.
Yeah, it is the argument. Look, how
No,
about
it
this?
isn't.
If that's not the argument, here, I'll wait for it. The conclusion, I'll give you the conclusion, or I'll help you and you can fill in the blanks. Conclusion is the holy fire is real. Let's go ahead and hear the premises.
Premise 1. No, sorry, not. I don't know how to do that. Okay. Anyways, the holy fire did not emit.
Wait, by you don't know how to do that, did you mean you don't know how to have a sound argument?
That's correct.
Oh, okay, then you don't have a sound argument.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, then you're wrong. Wait.
Also,
You know that you don't have an argument where the premises until the conclusion and the premises are true?
No.
Okay, if you don't have an argument where the premises until the conclusion, then you don't have an argument at all.
Well, I do.
No, you just don't have an argument. Oh, wait,
That's
hold on. You
correct.
do have an argument where the premises until the
I do.
conclusion? All right, I'll
A
wait
couple,
for it. Go
actually.
ahead. Let's hear it.
A
Also,
couple.
so you have an argument where the premises until the conclusion, just not one where the premises are true.
Well,
Okay, gotcha. Nice. I don't know. Let's hear it all. Let's hear you make your attempt at an argument.
okay. So your argument was, well, okay, even the Catholic Church has disagreed with the holy fire because the Pope himself went to the area where it supposedly would happen, and he waited around for a bit, and it didn't happen. And he goes, well, this must be a fraud. The Orthodox must be a
Oh,
fraud,
no.
right?
No, don't try to render out my argument. You're just mistracking it. It's really embarrassing for you.
That
Just
wasn't a
go ahead and-
mistracking. That was literally
Yeah,
your
it is.
argument.
No, my argument that it's not real is fucking hilariously stupid. So it's a guy who goes into a fucking secret room. A guy who
Yeah.
goes into a secret room, nobody gets to watch, and then he comes out with a fire. This is the same kind of magic trick that kids at the lunch table do when they don't know how to do magic tricks. What they do
No.
is they say, "Everyone close your eyes and I'll make this penny disappear." And everyone closes their eyes. We all open our eyes, the penny's gone, and we're like, "Dog, we know you just put it in your pocket." That's the same magic trick that your little Orthodox church does. The same little
No,
magic
it
trick.
isn't. No,
A
it
bad
isn't.
one. It's not a good magic trick.
You're getting
like-
fucked.
Listen, Mark,
Not-
you haven't even responded to the morality aspect of the argument.
But to be fair, he's he's got a bunch of shit to address in terms of this one.
I'm trying to address a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'm waiting for. I'm hoping that maybe he'll address this. Look,
Bro, Mr.
tell me
Dresser.
why it's not. Look, honestly, if you could just give me a convincing argument that it's a good magic trick, that would be impressive to me.
Oh my god.
It's not even a good magic trick. It's a shit magic trick.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because it's a retarded magic trick. It's a bad one. It's like shit. It's like unironically, I could tell you ways in which you could do this magic trick in a more impressive way than it's done by the Orthodox.
So okay.
Take
so
for example, the drying of
Sim.
phosphorus, right? If phosphorus dries, if you have phosphorus that's been diluted with water and then it dries and it reacts in the air, it will spontaneously combust. You could do this magic trick without hiding away in a room. You could do it in public, in front of people, and it would look like spontaneous combustion from God himself. It'd be very impressive. But instead, you do it in a hidden room. I could bring a lighter into a room and do this.
Oh my
Tuck them
god.
into my
Can I
shoe or
ask a
something.
question? Can I ask a question on the topic?
No.
No,
Let
he's
the other
going
person talk.
succession.
It's not fair to everyone pile on.
You already gave me about
Uh,
succession. He's gonna have succession. No one
No, I'm not.
No,
So,
Dingo,
Mark,
stop.
if-
Dingo, stop.
if God is
Dingo,
real.
stop. Dingo, stop, or you're serving me to death. Oh, Jesus Christ. All the autistic people need to stop. Mark, go ahead.
So yeah,
Dude.
my oh well, sorry, I'm being killed in Fortnite. Give me a second.
That's all right.
Okay.
If you wait 3 days, there's a miracle will happen. You'll rise again in Fortnite. It's real. It really happened. Waiting for one real miracle from me. These motherfuckers on the right. For the fucking. Other than this, there's also like you don't have to respond to any of this because you're currently responding to the other one. But the Saint Januarius blood thing is also hilarious. It's like wow.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
There's-
Okay, so Sent. I'm gonna ask you a credence question. What is your credence that people who regard lying as a very bad sin have been lying for thousands of years? What is your
my
credence?
credence is that they don't actually regard lying as a very bad.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just
Because
okay.
they're-
Well,
because they're
that's
lying.
just a bad credence. Anyway. Well,
That's a bad
okay.
credence.
If
Not
you
bad
Sent,
credence,
Sent,
it's just,
Sent,
I
Sent.
don't believe this thing that you believe. Right? I don't believe that they believe it either. I don't believe you believe it.
You
I know you're lying to
believe
yourself.
you believe
I can
that they're
tell.
lying.
I think
You
they're lying to
believe that
themselves too. I don't think they believe it.
You believe that the people who go in there with the flame are lying to themselves. You believe that, right?
No. I think they're lying to you. I think you're lying to yourself. I think those individuals probably don't even believe it. I think they probably know that God's not real. But they
I
have
don't
so
think
much
they do.
social power. Why the fuck
What?
would they ever give that up? And admit that?
I don't.
Is there a single person in this room who, if they were the head of a fucking major religion, would you ever tell people that you don't believe that religion is true? What the fuck would you do? You could do so much good from that position. Even if you're a fucking moral actor, even if you're a good person. No, of course you wouldn't fucking tell that. The amount of fucking good that you could do from that position, and if you're not a moral actor, if you don't give a fuck about morality, then of course you would. Because holy fucking shit, you gain so much power from that. Especially if it's the case that you're fucking Greek and you don't have to like not fuck anyone to be head of the church. You can have sex with people. Like what's the fucking downside?
Well, you kind of can. It's
Yeah,
it's
you
a little
kind
bit
of
of a
can.
question.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's true. You
church.
kind of can.
it's
But
a
the
little bit of a
opposite
question. It's a little bit of a question. I'm actually against.
Well,
it.
while you're asking yourself a little bit of that question, I want you to answer a little bit of my question, which is
No.
what's the fucking argument?
I'm not answering that question.
You're not going to answer the question. What is the argument for your view?
I don't have any argument.
Great. Can we move back?
Yeah, we can move
Yeah,
on.
we can move
Alright,
on. We can move
that's
to whatever Monkey Boy wants to.
Also,
Mark about.
need my charger.
I
But yeah.
think- I think my argument. I think this
Hold
is-
on. Let Monkey Boy give his thingy because you
No,
didn't
real
want to make
quick.
an argument. You already gave up. Sorry, Mark.
No. I just
Mark,
want to
you're
give
not
like
gonna like say you don't want to make an argument and that like have Monkey Boy think that he's gonna be able to fucking talk to you.
I'm
again,
gonna give
and
an
then, like,
end
fucking
notes.
start responding to me.
I'm gonna give an end notes. That's all I want.
No, you're not gonna give an end
An
note.
argument.
Sorry, we're moving on. It's
No,
Monkey
it's not
Boy's
an
turn.
argument. No.
Sorry,
All I
you
wanna
said you
do-
can have an argument. Maybe if you want to have this conversation again, we can.
No,
But
I
you
don't
don't
have
get
an
to like
argument.
you don't get
I
to
don't
say
have
I don't
one.
have an
I don't get
argument
into
and then
notes.
give an argument as the
I don't
fucking
have an
closing
argument.
statement.
This isn't an argument.
Yeah, just move on then.
Okay. All I want to
No,
say.
move on. No,
No.
not all you want to say. Stop.
Since it's not an
It's you
argument.
and Monkey Boy are not talking about the other thing.
Since it's not an argument.
I don't
I'm
care what it is.
correcting
Don't
myself.
give in notes.
I'm correcting myself.
Don't give in notes. Sorry, don't give a response. Don't give whatever you want to whatever you want to call that.
It's not a response.
What is it?
It's me recognizing that I was wrong.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay.
This is interesting.
Yeah. So I think the issue with my argument is that I'm not talking to Roman Catholic, and I think that this argument would only work against a Roman Catholic because they believe in miracles. And so I think that when I was praying about this, I probably was thinking about like how I would respond to a Roman Catholic instead of how I would
I'm gonna
respond
go
to
get my charger real
because
quick,
I
very fast.
wasn't really thinking about resistance to the fire. I was particularly thinking about the Pope example because that really had me thinking. But so I think that my issue was that I created an argument against an opponent who I wasn't actually debating. I'm done. That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all good. No hard feelings. Monkey boy, you had some shit you had to say. This motherfucking monkey boy is it's fucking locally muted, really? Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
Oh
How
my goodness.
embarrassing.
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh
Monkey
my
Monkey
boy
boy
god.
lost the debate right there.
I had to get my charger. Wait, what happened?
No, it's all good.
It's your
You want
turn
to jump back in
talk
and get Mark to
to-
address your point.
Oh yeah, so yeah, he agreed to the second horn of the dilemma in which things are good because God says them, which is just going to entail that basically the I guess the facet of good is just going to be that it is somehow compatible with the nature of God's essence, right? So that's just going to mean if God had
not essence. I don't talk about his essence. I don't know much about that.
well, you already talked about like him having
His
the
energies.
characteristic.
His energies. We know about his energies. I don't know much about his essence.
Well, you already said that one of the components of him is like omnibenevolence and like
His,
what else?
Yes, what we know about him.
I mean, we could just take that to be the essence, right? It's just going to be the property set of
That's
elements
not
and
his
characteristics.
essence. You don't know what theology you're dealing with. You're not talking to a Protestant. I
No,
don't
what-
believe we can know God's.
What do you think when I mean essence? What do you think I
Okay.
mean by essence?
You mean what God Himself is? That's what you mean.
It's just going to be the property set of characteristics
Okay,
or
cool.
elements.
So, yeah, I don't, and there are no properties in God.
Well, okay, so he doesn't have a characteristic either.
He doesn't have properties.
Yeah,
Properties creates parts because properties can be separable and properties can be divisible. God doesn't have properties.
you don't consider characteristics to be properties either.
I don't use the word properties.
I don't see what's the issue.
Yeah, because properties creates like a very, I guess the term would be like positive theology. It's claiming that we know too much about God's composition. That's the issue.
Okay, well, let's just say set of characteristics, right? Is that
Let's
better?
just say like goodness and like love and stuff like that. Like, we don't use the word properties. We can
Yeah,
say,
I
like,
mean-
oh, I'm saying he's love and goodness. That's what we can say.
Well, that because literally that's what's being put into question. So
Right,
when I mean essence, I'm just going to say like a set of characteristics.
Oh, that's fine.
All right. So you said God is something like along the lines of omnibenevolent. I don't know if you also take that as omnipotent or other stuff like that.
Of course,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you say God is good, that's just going to mean God is godly, right?
Yep, God is Himself.
Yeah. So given some counterfactual or different state of affairs in which God had arbitrarily a different property set, it's going to be the case that
I don't do counterfactuals.
what's the contradiction?
Oh, I just don't do them.
So are you saying God's like logically necessary?
I would say that the way God has set the world, there is really no sense about bickering about what different way it could have been set up.
I don't know what it means to say I'm not going to not use counterfactuals without demonstrating
I just mean
logical
that
inconsistency.
there's a very cataphatic belief in God, a positive belief in God. I have a very negative belief. I have a belief that we can't know much about God, and so we should have a very humble epistemology.
So you're saying counterfactuals are not, in a sense, compatible with God?
No, they're not.
Okay.
Not really.
In what way?
Because I think that they posit too much about God. For instance, the way a counterfactual, well, the presupposition of a counterfactual when it comes to God is that God decides things in the same way that humans do. God deliberates about things, right? This is incorrect. We don't know how God decides things. He doesn't decide things in the way humans do, probably, because he's omnipotent.
So what does it mean to say he decides?
He doesn't decide things in the way humans do.
So he doesn't decide things.
Not in like any way we could comprehend now.
Okay. So yeah. So it's just going to mean he doesn't decide things.
He doesn't decide things in the way we can comprehend now.
Well, the idea is when one says or appeals to some folk notion of the idea of like, in some sense, this isn't the case. For me, that seems to implicate that in some other sense it is. But if it's given every sense, there is no way in which we can reconcile the idea of this concept with the nature of God. Then it's just going to be the case that term invoked referential to God is just going to be like extraneous.
What does that mean?
Not relevant, right? It's not going to be compatible with the nature of God.
I'm confused why that is.
Because you said that given some sense of how God makes judgments, it's not the case. Or it was judgments, right? Or makes decisions, whatever it was.
His will, the way God enacts His will.
Okay, the way he enacts states of affairs or decisions, whatever. It's not going to
Not
be.
decisions. His decisions posit some sort of like deliberative will. God doesn't have.
Yeah, you said that he doesn't make
Deliberation.
decisions in the way that humans do.
No. He doesn't have like two options, and he goes
That's
like,
not what you said.
which one's better? He doesn't do that.
Yeah, but you said that.
It's a very Western conception.
Yeah, you said God doesn't make decisions in the sense that humans do.
That's correct.
So I'm just trying to understand in what sense does he?
I don't know.
So then
No
what?
one can know.
So what does it mean to say that he makes decisions of any sense?
I probably wouldn't say that. I would say
Okay,
that,
so
like,
yeah,
when it comes
so
to God's will, it's kind of like it's naturally incomprehensible.
so yeah, so it's going to be the case that he doesn't make decisions.
He doesn't make decisions in a way we can understand it now.
Okay, so yeah, there's no reason to just like attribute that verbosity of in the sense we can understand, because if it's gonna be the case lexically, given exhaustive consideration that it's not like compatible with the nature of God, then to invoke the term is just gonna be irrelevant.
No,
No. What do you mean?
I don't. When I say he doesn't make decisions, I mean he doesn't make decisions in a way that we do, where we're like,
Yeah, that's the idea. So the idea is that if you're going to invoke a folk notion, and given the consideration of the actual terms lexically, if there is going to be no sense in which it's compatible with the actual term use, then it's just going to be like some form of equivocation. So it's just
Okay,
not
cool.
gonna...
Well, then he doesn't make decisions.
Okay, so
in the
so
way
he
you
doesn't
use
make
the word.
decisions.
No.
So is there any sense in which you say he's conscious?
Yeah, completely. He's the most conscious you can be. He's consciousness itself, in all honesty.
Okay, so he has cognitive faculties, right?
He's consciousness itself.
Okay, and you take it that he's omniscient?
Yeah.
And there's no world in which he resides in, right? He exists foundationally independent of any environment.
No, that's a very Western view of God.
Okay, well, it's just going to be the case that...
Yeah, I mean, I don't really claim that there's a huge distinction between God and the created world.
Yeah,
this gets into a lot of difficult issues.
Yeah, but the idea is just that's going to lead to the idea that God is not plausible to exist.
Why?
Well, it's just going to be the case that God is omniscient, but doesn't have a world to, facilitate his cognitive faculties in which he endeavors to truth.
The issue is that you're thinking of God as having like a center. God doesn't have a center. As Isaiah 40 says, God is the entirety of God is in every single blade of grass you see.
But okay, so God doesn't follow the law of identity.
See, like, you're just too analytic about this stuff. That's why I can't talk to these people, man. They just can't think like without like these words, without these like very like categorized terms, man. It's like a brain disease that like
what categorized terms was I using?
Law of identity. No, like what? Like,
well,
the concept of law of identity
we're engaging in a dialect, right? So it's gonna be the case that I'm using like logical notions to derive sense of critiquing.
The issue is that like you're thinking God like pertains to like our human categories of logic. I don't.
So it's going to be the case that God isn't logical, right?
Does God follow the law of identity in the sense that God is God? Yeah, I mean he says that I am, and then Jesus says I am in John.
But what did you say? You said God is equivalently in himself as he is in a blade of grass.
Yes.
So it's going to be the case that there's going to be no separation if they're to be co-equal within resignment between that blade of grass and his own essence, right? So it's just going to be the case. There's no distinguishing in identity from the entity of God.
God is entirely in the blade of grass and is entirely in the blade of grass next to it. That's how it works.
Okay, so given God in pure form, you can distinguish that being God from a blade of grass, which is
what does that mean?
Which is to say that they equally have the same amount of God.
There's not the same amount of God. God's entire being is in every blade of grass.
Yeah, well, I'm not understanding what that means.
I'm sorry, I can't help you with that one.
Are you saying like he's omnipresent or something?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, so he's local.
What does that mean?
He's within one point in space, but he's statically, or like he's perpetually also in every point of locality. So it's going to be the case that God's a physical entity.
No. See, this is just like this issue. Is you're too analytical.
Okay, well, how do you posit that in X locality God is to exist equally as he does in himself, if not given the consideration of location? There's going to be a spatial concept.
I mean, like writings of the saints have shown that like once you reach like a very high stage in your spiritual journey, you start seeing like God's being everywhere. Like you see a ray of light and you see God, and you see
I'm going to be honest. I don't see how that actually responds to what I said.
Oh, I mean, I'm not like I can't really give you an argument because you're like.
So it's going to. Well, yeah, you said God is logical, but then you're saying he doesn't abide by the law of identity. But then you also said God.
It's a very stringent way to think of God. So I don't know if he abides by the law of identity. I'd probably say he does because he says I am. But even the concept of the law of identity doesn't. But
I'm not making sense of what you mean that God is co-equally within himself as he is within a blade of grass. What does that mean?
It's pretty obvious. I don't.
But
it's not obvious to anyone else.
Yeah, but
it's primitive. I don't.
Well, it's going to be the case.
Mark of the pantheist.
Yeah, but you said it's going to be the case that he's not local, right?
I don't know that local.
Yeah,
Local,
so
you would say that
so
That's
local
pretty
means-
obvious. Pretty obvious.
a physical thing. Yeah, I don't think he's physical now.
so what does it mean to say that he resides in a blade of grass if a blade of grass is a like physical like field in which one can reside in?
His entire being. Well, I don't think the blade of grass is physical.
Oh my god.
You don't take it that the blade of grass is physical.
No. I mean, like nothing is purely physical because the blade of grass has like a whole range of potentialities in its substance of being a blade of grass, right? So
I don't know what that means. That seems to
I
be
can't argue
garbled.
that one either. You should read Aristotle.
Okay. Well, let's go back a bit because you said that it's the case that God is omniscient, but also doesn't have an external world which, is dependent on which he can actually have some substrate for his faculties of cognition. So it's going to be the case that God is
faculties of I don't know what this means.
So it's going to be the case that God is an internalist about deriving epistemic access to truth.
These are like cringe analytic words you heard on Reddit. I'm not using these words.
Okay. So do you know what an external? You know what a world is, right?
Or like a KMB video. I'm not using these words.
Yeah. A KMB video. Okay. Yeah. Do you know?
I'm not wrong.
You
literally laugh. I'm not wrong. I know.
No. Do you know what a world is, right? You're aware of this, right?
Yeah, possible world. Yeah, basically just like a thought experiment.
No, an external world.
Of like a state of affairs with properties. Yeah.
No, an external world.
That word doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a world independent of the mind.
I don't believe
Well,
that.
he's an idealist.
So that's the issue.
Oh, he's an idealist. Okay. So it's going to be the case.
I'm an idealist because everything, like in a sense, exists in God's mind. I don't.
So
So
Well, no, you're like a Hegelian absolute idealist, aren't you?
yes.
Stop interjecting. Stop.
Well, the idea is that if God doesn't have an external world in the sense of which an externalist would account for epistemic access to truth, that's going to mean that, well, under the epistemic, the externalist apparatus is just going to posit something like, they're just going to posit that an external world is that which furnishes the mind with mental content. And consciousness is going to be a state of mental content. So if God is conscious on a non-externalist account, which is to say there's no external world that provides for the substrate of God's epistemic access to truth, if he's, omniscient, then it's going to be the case. Yeah, it's going to be the case he's a coherent. That's weird.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's going to be the case God is an internalist, meaning that he attains truth.
These are like these cringe analytic words. No one used these words before like the 1900s.
The idea is that
You're not even
yeah,
engaging. Stop being a faggot.
that's kind of just like random ad homs, right?
No, it's not. It's,
you're saying it's cringe.
It is.
It kind of is. It kind of is.
Mark, just
so
engage.
distracted with
Engage
the
with
modern
monkeys.
world.
Not really.
Can't even
dude.
imagine.
Mark.
Can't even imagine a world where these words aren't used.
Yeah, Mark, when someone says that, oh, you probably found this from a random subreddit or these terms are cringe and don't address the actual critique that's being represented to their interlocutor, giving an adequate response, that's going to be considered an ad
hom. Just like characteristics of a fallen world. I don't need to respond to them. Just like demonic.
But you know what's demonic?
Then,
Mark,
okay, well then,
demonic? Okay, Mark,
we can't engage in dialogue.
Mark, you sacrifice animals for pleasure.
Doge, shut the fuck up.
Mark, do you or do you not?
No, it's fine because
Doge.
yeah, it's fine. I don't care to engage with someone who's just like unable to keep up with like any form of analytical philosophy, and they're just going to say every term within analytical fields and pedagogy are just going to be cringe when they're revoked.
We're not lazily categorized the world for like literally 3,000 years, and we started using these words just to like. And it's funny how the rise of these words tracks with the loss of religion because these words.
Yeah, no one cares for the history lecture.
No, Mark, I talk about your demonic, satanic and demonic behaviors, okay?
Analytic philosophy is demonic. It's 100%.
Mark, you know what else is demonic? Sacrificing animals for your own pleasure. Okay, that seems like animal sacrifice seems pretty demonic.
Stop. Okay, I don't know why we're talking about theism, about theism. Like, just like get on topic.
No, animal sacrifice.
Stop. Doge. I'm gonna get decoded to fucking you. Shut the fuck up.
I was getting Mark to get the word out of your vocabulary.
All right. Well, I
so
guess I'm done.
What?
I guess we're done, right?
Yeah, well, Mark's a concession. You can't. Wait. Mark,
you can leave.
On
sure.
you, on you, autist.
What do you mean it's a concession? What do you take concession to mean?
Well, I guess we're done here. You can leave. I mean, that's a concession.
Well,
no,
yeah, that'd be a concession
in dialogue
on your behalf, for which you're conceding
whatsoever for your stance whatsoever.
Yeah, it's going to be a concession on your behalf, so I'm going to be taking the victory.
You just said you're going to leave.
Well, yeah. So
you're not engaging.
So I said, I guess I might as well leave now, given the consideration you said you don't have any care for analytical characterization of my position.
Yeah, because you.
So you're not engaging.
So you don't have a position on this. You don't have a position against
Mark.
Mark,
you actually moved me further. You moved me further from God in this debate, Mark. You know that because of how cringe you are. You moved me further from God in this debate. You should. I think you should seek to
Very
rectify
good.
that. You should like pray. You should pray more about this, and then maybe
I wasn't
maybe
trying
you know,
to
God.
debate God, and this guy started having a soy attack because whenever someone mentions God,
it's so- oh my God.
starts up, and it's like can't do anything.
So you do this thing where you're like,
Well, you
we're
got
not
all things are
debating.
possible, Mark. So you can do something. Because
I love you,
got all
Mark.
things are
Just do
possible.
better. I love you so much. It's unreal.
Yeah. I mean, like you just
So
can't talk to these people. Like these people have like brainworms. Like
What do you mean you can't talk to them?
What are you
Mark, what do you mean you can't talk to
Bad
them?
brain
God,
worms.
all things are
Mark
possible,
has
Mark.
brainworms. I don't.
Mark, you got all things are possible, so you can talk about it.
Mark has brainworms. I don't like.
Well,
Like when someone
you
starts
got
saying
all
like,
things
so God's an internalist. Like these are
Internalist meaning okay. You know the
I
stances
know what it
of like
means. No. I know what
internal.
it means. I study
Okay,
analytics.
then
What? You literally said you didn't know what I was
it means.
saying.
Don't be mad, bitch.
I know what you're saying. I just don't care. It's fine.
Oh my god. If you know what internal and
Mark.
external, like where are you so confused when like Darth was asking you?
Because he tries to like. I just don't like it. It's just a very like crazy way of thinking.
Okay.
Mark, wait. I know that somehow combine victim side and Latamba with the
Mark
unconscious.
W though.
RW just
Mark
huge.
W.
All right. Hold on. You can hear me?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So like this argument I made, pretty recently, either God in the universe ex materia or ex nihilo, which ex materia is an infinite regress, or it's back to ex nihilo, which ex nihilo is contradiction or another infinite regress. Therefore, God could not make the universe. And I can explain like more thoroughly for each point. But
Are you
like,
making an argument for atheism or theism?
Yeah, atheism.
Okay.